Hello. Thought I'd do a morning video before I have a bath or anything because it's the morning after the car thing last year and it's so weird. I woke up like about an hour or so ago and I just felt so traumatized and I was like, no, I'll tell you how I felt. Actually, that's not true. That was a horrible lie. I felt blank. I felt totally blank when I first opened my eyes. And then I like blindly, I say blindly because I still hadn't remembered. But I couldn't think, why do I feel so blank? What happened yesterday? Why do I feel so blank? Like, there was nothing that happened that I'm aware of, I just went to sleep early again, which I don't mind. I like it when I could sleep early and wake early. That's the best way for me to be, really. It's just that it doesn't always stay that way. Because usually I say something dumb like what I just said, and then I get like the renegade to this ridiculous sleeping dead late, or waking dead early and sleeping dead late, and being knackered the whole time. Stop messing with my hair, shall I? I had to move the computer over here. I was sat on my bed. I mean, I'm not dressed or anything. I just put my scarf on because it's cold. I was sat on my bed, and Merlin looked at me in disgust when I switched this on because I had to move over here because the light was just too mental. It was swallowing me up. It looked far too disturbing to carry on filming over there. So I just switched it off and moved it over here. Anyhow, I think the reason why... Oh yeah, then I went down to the loo and cleaned my teeth and everything, and then I went out to make a coffee, and I was like, oh, it's the morning after the night before last year. I just remember it's weird. It feels like I'm here today, living today, but I also feel like I'm living last year at this time last year too. I just feel sick. This was exactly the same time that I had to ring my mother up and she went nuts at me. Absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. I can't express it enough. She was screaming down the phone at me at the top of her lungs. I've never heard my mother scream at me like that before. It was awful. It was terrifying. And then I started howling like a baby because and I still hadn't even told her what happened. She was telling me what had happened. Like, she was screaming at me, "You've crashed a car, haven't you? You've crashed a car. I knew it." But at the top of her lungs. I'm not even going to repeat what she did because it was just awful. Anyhow, the more she screamed at me, the more I couldn't speak. Like when you're sobbing, but you're not sobbing. You're like I suppose I'm having like a panic attack, but in tears. Because I couldn't speak. The more she screamed and hollered at me, the more panicked I was getting, and the more child alters which were taking it. It was horrible. It was horrible. It really was horrible. And yet it was so revealing because I'm convinced that was the altar that had been sat waiting for the call. And then she switched and started to be nicer eventually, but it went on for a while. And I really do. She probably don't even remember now the reaction she gave to me, because normally that's the kind of stuff she'd delete from her mind. I don't know. Never discussed it with her. I've never mentioned to her that morning. I mean, I can't now, can I? It's too late. But I mean, I probably should have done while she was still here. But it just got ridiculous. It got to the point where anything from the past that had already been gone over forever ago, like, for example, when I was 19, I found out the truth about why my dad wasn't in my life. And my mum and grandpa admitted it and apologised. This is by the time I was 20 they did. Not when I was 19, but they did when I was 20. But I knew from being 19, sorry. And yeah, like I say, by the time I was 20, they confessed. They finally admitted it. And now that Grandpa's dead, and he was the only living witness except for me and my dad, and I don't ever see my dad, my mum changed that this year, changed the history on behind that. And I was just like, wow, this is nuts. Why is she changing history back to the version that she wants to believe is true, rather than the true version? And why do that on stuff which has already been, I thought it was already dealt with, spoken about. But when you saw that traumatist, so-called therapist guy, that's when she started rewriting history again. because I was like, I turned, after a session, after I'd stopped talking to him really, and I don't know, I must have been arguing about something, but it won't have been after a session, but it was around, I can't remember, because I didn't used to speak after a session. I just go home and say, oh, do you know what, it might have been after a session, and she might have been moaning at me a little bit for not speaking, and I was like, look, how can I speak to him, you know, I don't trust him, and the things I do want to say, because he'd asked us what was the worst thing that ever happened in your life. Well, to me, the worst thing that's ever happened in my life was when I was a kid and Mum used to, that I know, which I've always known co-consciously. I mean, not all this like crazy mind control and SRA stuff, but the stuff which has co-consciously always been there. It was always when she used to lock me in the house and leave me. That was like, I'd say, probably the most traumatizing thing I was aware of, because loads of other stuff used to happen, but if she was there and like it was horrible, then that was a different kind of trauma to thinking that your mother's like left you and never going to come back kind of thing. I mean, I definitely believed it when I was a kid. I can remember that like it was yesterday. I can't remember, you know, it's not nice. Even though I know it doesn't sound that major, but it's just what's co-consciously always been there. Anyhow, I don't know, I must have been talking, and I was like, how can I tell him stuff? Which, I said, I can't tell him stuff like that, you know? So I was protecting her, basically. It just got ridiculous. But only because I told him so much stuff about things when she wasn't there. And then he just twisted it all against me and started calling me a perpetrator and a critical parent and all this nutty stuff. I mean, how can you call a little kid a perpetrator and a nutty parent? I was going to say a critical parent. You can't call a little kid, like, who's like, was so young, those things. It's crazy. Anyhow, that's when it all came out again about the big lie about my dad, and everything was already confessed, and she rewrote history, and it was like, Mum, why are you doing this now? The truth's been out for years. Oh no, not in my mum's head. It's like, but then it's like the version that she always told me when I was growing up. That's the version she wants to stick to now. And the real truth gets buried once again in the depths of her head. But what's annoying about this is she knows what the real truth is. I know she does. It's never been something that she blanked out. It's always been something she wants to rewrite. I feel like I'm gone totally off point. It's just a weird time to find myself making a video, because it was 10 to 9 when I called her. It's now 5 to 9. So when I started going off point was when I saw the time, and I was like, chilling. I think the car crash thing, I think the reason why it's like so traumatic is because the area, I've never gone up and filmed and said, now this is where the crash happened. And the reason why it happened here is because it's not just because I left work, it's stuff I'd accidentally filmed up there. And the crash happened right opposite stuff I'd accidentally caught on camera. And I didn't even know at that point in time I'd caught it on camera. Found out earlier in the year when someone commented on an old video I'd made. And because they'd commented on it, I went to answer the comments. And I've got a really bad dry patch of skin here, which is growing. And I can't understand why. It's so weird. Like, what's been happening to my chin? It feels a bit like it's been filed, you know, with one of those like metal things with the rough sides. You can maybe see it a little bit. Don't know. Should we put the light on and see if no, it'll just dazzle us, won't it? Quite interesting. It did pick up on film though. You can't tell, I don't think. You can't tell, but it's growing. I noticed it the other day. And I was like, just a little tiny patch. And I was like, what's that? It's not a spot or anything like that. It's just a little patch of dry skin, which is growing. And I'm like, there's nothing that rubs me here on my chin. It's not like there's no reason why that should be there. But it's on a morning when I've been sleeping so much the last few days. It's making me feel paranoid without looking. Making me feel paranoid. I should never say that word, even in jest. I feel like I'm just chattering for the sake of chattering. What an amount of time, which is pretty much all I'm trying to say really is, I don't remember what really happened in the car thing. I mean, I just know that the location it was massively hot for what I'd filmed there unknowingly, and I just left work 3 months earlier, and they just knew that I wasn't going to ever go back. And that, I mean, I can see that point of view, I suppose, when you put all this like training and high level mind control into someone to do a certain job and they run away and leave. I can see why that might annoy a few people. And then when they're like filming all this stuff, which they've accidentally caught on film up there, oh God, it's kind of scary, really. Especially after she drove past me the other day like this. Anyway, I've got to go. I love you all. Bye. Out of time.